Beginners to astrology will usually treat their sun sign, their moon sign, and their ascendant sign as the three most important factors to their core personality. But in the very profound system of Jaimini astrology, which is a branch of Vedic astrology that's growing in more popularity as more people learn about it, the sage Jaimini gives us a completely different baseline foundation for a person, and that is the Atmakaraka. So atma means soul and karaka means indicator. So very simply, this is the soul indicator of a person, and it's the most important planet in the chart in the Jaimini system. So in my written report, the Atmakaraka is the very first section of the report. And when I speak to people on the street about astrology, I encourage them to find out what their Atmakaraka is and then really contemplate that planet and how the characteristics of that planet are going to inform the basic underlying foundation of their personality. So you are that planet, in other words, and it acts like an internal blueprint for your essential character qualities in this specific lifetime. And finding your Atmakaraka is actually very easy. It's the planet with the highest degrees in any sign. So if you look at this chart, this is the chart of Brian Wilson, the recently passed leader of the Beach Boys. And you see he has planets in all different signs. What planet has the highest degrees in any sign? It's the sun, which is at 28 degrees, 28 minutes. So it doesn't matter what signs the planets are in, it's about what planet has the highest degrees in any sign. It's really that easy. So in fact, in the Jaimini system, each planet pertains to a key person in our lives. And it's all based on the degrees from the highest to the lowest. So the planet in the highest degrees is the Atmakaraka. It's the planet of the self. The second highest planet is our closest associates or our friends. The third is our siblings. The fourth highest in degrees is our mother as well as our children. The fifth is our father. The sixth is our relatives or our ancestors or our distant relatives, you could say. And the seventh is our spouse. So in this series, we're going to go through each of the 7 planets, and the Atmakaraka is only the sun through Saturn. We don't use the north node and the south node, Rahu and Ketu, nor Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. We don't use them. It's only 1 through 7. So we're going to go through each planet and look at the characteristics that Jaimini gives to those planets in his text, the Jaimini Sutras. And we're going to talk about what a person's blueprint personality would be when that planet is your Atmakaraka. And so his descriptions are very interesting, and some of his descriptions aren't found in any other place in astrology in general, not just Vedic astrology. So before we get to the planet videos, I'm going to break down a few points about the Atmakaraka that are important to understand before we get into each of the videos. So first, we have the basic characteristics of each planet. So when that planet is your Atmakaraka, you take on those characteristics, and you can say that that is a starting point of your core personality. But the other planets are going to be affecting your Atmakaraka. They're going to be affecting that planet. And when that happens, you're going to be taking in those characteristics into your personality as well. And so you can think of it as those other planets are coloring your Atmakaraka. They're influencing it with their traits. So we're naturally drawn to the characteristics of our Atmakaraka, as well as the planets influencing the Atmakaraka. And because of this, we have these natural inclinations, the natural inclination of who we are, the Atmakaraka. What that does then is that Jaimini gives us various careers and interests to each of those planets. And so what Jaimini gives are a lot of, you could say, careers or just natural inclinations to do certain things in life based on what your Atmakaraka is. And so there are a lot of combinations of planets that are in different positions that give certain careers. They'll give certain health conditions. And so there's a lot of complex combinations that will influence the outcome of a person. And even the spiritual leanings of people, as well as even where you're going to go in your next lifetime or in your afterlife. So a quick example is that when, say, your Atmakaraka is Saturn, And Saturn is conjunct Jupiter and the moon in the Navamsha, or the 9th divisional chart. Jaimini says that the person will be an author because Jupiter and the moon conjunct the Atmakaraka, or part of the combination is if it's in the 2nd sign from the Atmakaraka or the 5th sign from the Atmakaraka, you're going to be taking on those abilities of being a writer. So there are many types of these combinations, and we're not going to dive deep into the system of Jaimini astrology and get into those kinds of weeds in this series, because it's a very complex and multifaceted system with a lot of different techniques and rules. But what we're going to do is we're going to study, for example, why the moon would make you an author. Even though if you don't have that combination, we're going to see, okay, the moon makes you an author. Why? What about the moon would make a person an author? And gather clues about the moon. So when the moon is your Atmakaraka, you're going to get a richer understanding of those characteristics of the moon. That could cause you to be an author if you have that certain combination. So I hope that's not too complex, but the goal is to get to that core characteristic of the planet, and then to be able to derive the results when that planet is your Atmakaraka. So the second point, as I just mentioned, we're using predominantly the Navamsha, the 9th divisional chart. In Vedic astrology, we have the birth chart, but then when we can divide each sign into different, we divide the sign into, say, 9 sections, we create a new chart, and that's called the Navamsha chart. So most of you familiar with Vedic astrology, we use these different other subcharts. And when we're studying the Atmakaraka, we use that 9th divisional chart, the Navamsha, as well as the main birth chart. And these give us the most clues into Jaimini uses the Navamsha primarily, but we can use both of these charts as the basis of our analysis. And I did a series on my channel called The Most Important Sign in Your Chart, where we study the sign that the Atmakaraka is in the 9th divisional chart. And that's called the Svamsha sign. So go back and review those videos to see what sign is most important to you in your chart and the importance of that sign in your overall character development in your life. And again, it's all based on the Atmakaraka's position, but that series is all about the signs in question where the Atmakaraka is located. And the health of that sign and how you go through life developing that sign is going to depend on the health of the Atmakaraka and its placement related to the interactions with other planets. And so finally, what I basically just pointed to, the health of the Atmakaraka is incredibly important to show whether a person is going to feel more fulfilled by life. And the health means that if other planets that are friendly to the Atmakaraka planet are helping it, are interacting with it, or if it's being hurt by planets that are not friendly or are cruel to the Atmakaraka planet. So there's an entire system of planetary relationships, which I've covered in other videos. And I'll leave a link in the description of this video to see the basic planetary relationships. But when the Atmakaraka is in good health, the person will be generally fulfilled and content throughout their life, regardless of their challenging circumstances that they find themselves in. And then the opposite is true when the Atmakaraka is unhealthy. The person, even if they're wealthy and respected by other people, they're going to feel that their true self is in a state of disarray, or they're often confused, or they don't feel anchored in their life, or it's difficult to really realize their overall purpose, and so they feel discontented regardless if the external circumstances are good. So the Atmakaraka is critically important, the health of the Atmakaraka, to see how well a person feels about their general disposition. A healthy Atmakaraka, a person will be more content and anchored in their purpose. An unhealthy Atmakaraka, a person will be more straying through life or meandering through life, and they'll feel like things don't have deeper meaning even if their external circumstances are good. So a strong Atmakaraka in your chart is going to give you a very strong soul force, and a weak Atmakaraka will give you a weaker soul force. So a strong soul force goes through life with this strong sense of conviction and this sense of purpose. And a weak soul force is very troubled and meandering and wandering, and they're struggling to find a deeper purpose to their life. So in each video of this series, we're going to talk about the basic characteristics of each planet, and then we're going to bring in these other clues that Jaimini is giving that are based in other combinations of planetary combinations, but we're going to take those clues and then dissect how those characteristics that he's given are going to inform the basic characteristics of each planet, and therefore what a person will be like when a certain planet is their Atmakaraka. So for example, planets in the 4th sign from the Atmakaraka shows a person's general emotional nature. And Jaimini also gives a weapon to each planet, like Saturn carries a bow, the Sun carries a sword. So we're going to look into what those symbols mean about that planet, and then show when the planet is your Atmakaraka, how you're going to take on those characteristics. Again, it depends on if it's healthy or unhealthy. So we're going to go into all these different kinds of characteristics. And the point of the series is to better align ourselves with our Atmakaraka, and I always say to contemplate what that planet is, to learn as much about that planet as possible, so that you can grow in your soul force and to go through life with a deeper understanding of how and why that planet is the most important for you. So stay tuned for the following videos, and if you're interested in a reading with me, you can go to my website jmvedic.com, where I have my written report. And whenever a person does a predictive reading with me, or a reading where we study the birth chart, I always go beforehand in an analysis of the Jaimini system to get a deeper understanding of the person on a very much of a different level than what other systems of astrology show. So I really love using the Jaimini system. I learned so much more about it the more that I practice it with other people, and it always gives very unique and surprising insights into the person that other systems just don't. So stay tuned for this series. Looking forward to get into this really basic component of the Jaimini astrological system.